introduction to inputs and outputs on the Raspberry Pi. Okay, so if you have your Pi right here, and it's just, it's a single board computer, right? So it's got a microprocessor on it, memory, there's a graphical, like a GPU thing right here, all of these weird sockets, mouse right here, right? Keyboard. Is that a space bar? Nice. Okay. Then there's, your monitor, right? And there's like a person on it or something, whatever. In addition to that, right, your Raspberry Pi has a whole bunch of other pins which we can mess with. And I guess I want us to think about computers in a more general sense, right? Like we use them all the time and they're so streamlined, right? Like your iPhone or your Android or whatever you got, right? The thing is so streamlined. We don't even think of it as a device with inputs and outputs. It's really just this magical thing. But all it is at the end of the day is like an electronic device running code. It's got lots of inputs and outputs. And what are inputs? Inputs are devices which translate external. At the end of the day, it's really energy, right? So energetic events, maybe like the pushing of a finger or the movement of a finger or the speaking of, the generation of sound by your vocal cords, right? There's a whole list of sensors which we'll be looking into which sort of convert those events into electrical signals, right? And then the computer's job is to take those electrical signals and, decode or make sense of that information or act upon it, okay? And if we look at a traditional computer, right, like that you're using all the time, maybe you have a keyboard, right, and a mouse, and what these are doing, the mouse has, usually modern ones have a LED with like a distance tracker on the bottom, so it's giving X, Y position of the mouse as well as click data into the Raspberry Pi or into the computer. The keyboard is a giant set of buttons, and as you push them, it sends what buttons are being pushed into the computer. And then as far as outputs go, right, like computers have sound output, right? That's how you play music all the time. Or visual output on your screen, or they can even have things like vibration or something if whenever a phone is on set on silent or things like that, and many other things too. The Raspberry Pi is just one. It's a little bit more exposed. That's the major difference, right? So instead of just having a speaker or a screen or a mouse or a keyboard, there's this giant set of pins that we can access, and we can actually tell these pins to do much more, many more things than you can do with just a screen or a keyboard. The problem is you need to there's a little bit more thought that has to go into it, okay? So there's a cost with it, right? So in order to do more, we need to actually do more thinking. All right, it's not going to be as easy as just having a circle appear on a screen or something, like we know with PowerPoint or something. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding, input. So maybe we'll add a red LED, all right, to this, or maybe we'll add some sort of switch. Actually, yeah, whatever. And then later on in the class, we'll add in a speaker, all right, and then that'll, generate sound. And we'll add a microphone, so that can, take in sound, right, and then generate a signal. And we'll add in light sensors, devices which are sensitive to light, right, and all of these things are generating data, sending it in and out. And I mean, the list is really endless in a sense, right? Like we're going to be doing a few select ones because we have limited time, but there's a ton of stuff you can do, right? Anything which basically can convert some sort of physical phenomenon into an electrical signal can be processed by a computer, and in particular then can be processed by Python. And we can do, we can write code to handle it. We can put our logical thoughts down and then manipulate that data and act upon it, okay? The question is just finding sensors or devices that, convert the electrical energy into, whatever energy we want, or vice versa. And these are generally components like this: speakers, microphones, light sensors, switches, even LEDs. Arguably, these are all known as transducers. Okay, and they convert one form of energy into another. Right? Keyboards are transducers. Keyboard mousers are transducers. Anything like that. Right? So it's just something to keep in mind, okay? So we're going to be, the wiring, the hardware, the breadboard aspect of our code, whenever we're doing all those little hardware pieces, that's for the most part going to be dealing with transducers. And then the Python side is actually like the thought behind, handling that data, okay? And I want you to, while you're doing all this, think about, that really this is all data at the end of the day, okay? Like the pushing of a switch, there's information in it, okay? Can we use that information somehow, all right? And it's hard to think about, okay? Especially if you've never done it before. So I don't want you to get discouraged with it.